How's it going, everyone? Got a brand new Helldivers 2 patch to cover for you guys. On top of that, we do have a brand new statement from the CEO in terms of whether or not the studio is going to be acquired from Sony. I shouldn't really say statement because that makes it sound like it's some formal decree or anything like that. It's not anything like that. However, there has been a lot of speculation based on Arrowhead really popping off that Sony was at some point going to acquire them. It's fair speculation to have, given that Sony has been acquiring some studios, and Arrowhead and Sony have always had a good relationship. Look at Helldivers 1, but it looks like that won't be happening, at least not sometime in the near future, but we'll talk that at the end of this video. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to ask you guys, please like this video and do leave a comment with your thoughts. It really does help out the channel a lot, and it is much appreciated. First of all, we have the minor patch 1.000.1. Now, it is a minor patch, however, a lot of notes and a lot of changes with this patch as well. Fresh new patch notes, Helldivers. Major updates include planetary hazards active, and many planets now have additional environmental challenges that will appear at random while you are deployed, and this includes stuff from fire tornadoes to meteor showers and many more. So this is going to be pretty crazy in terms of various planetary hazards. That's going to be something, exciting to look at. Maybe some people will find it annoying, but that's the point of Helldivers. It's gonna get a little chaotic. Now, we also have some balancing changes. Eradicate missions. Eradicate missions now require more kills and enemies spawn more often. The time to complete the mission was previously shorter than intended and should now usually take twice as long as to complete. That makes a lot of sense. These Eradicate missions are way too easy. Like, they're enjoyable if you want to boom, 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 get in, get out pretty quickly, but man, those missions, for me at least, as far as the ones I've played, they've been pretty straightforward, and it would be nice to have a little bit more challenge to it. I feel like the Eradicate missions, a lot of the times we were going into them, me and my boys would look at the Eradicate missions as a stopgap before we get into the real missions, and nice to see those are getting a little bit more challenging and changes are being made there as well. And it doesn't stop there. Primary, secondary, and support weapons. Breaker, decreased magazine capacity from 16 to 10, increased recoil. Railgun, decreased armor penetration in safe mode, decreased damage against durable enemy parts. Flamethrower, increased damage per second by 50%. That's a pretty sizable increase for the flamethrower. Nice to see that. Laser cannon, increased damage against durable enemy parts, increased armor penetration, improved ergonomics. Punisher, increased total ammo capacity from 40 to 60, increased stagger force, increased damage from 40 per bullet to 45 per bullet. Breaker, spray and pray, increased armor penetration, increased fire rate from 300 to 330, increased number of pellets from 12 to 16 per shot, and decreased magazine size from 32 to 26. Now, if you remember, in a statement from the Arrowhead CEO, just something he put out on Twitter, as far as balancing goes, he said that they weren't looking at always doing things like damage changes for weapon balancing. The only damage change that they changed was increased damage per second by 50% for the flamethrower, and then also, I guess you could look at the laser cannon, increased damage against durable enemy parts, but it looks like it's more of these specific stats that they are adjusting for the weapons to adjust balancing for them. So that is pretty interesting, and we'll see how that's implemented further on from that. Stratagem changes, energy shield backpack, increased delay before recharging, 38mm and 120mm orbital barrages, increased duration of the bombardment, decreased spread as well, and then fixes. Fixed armor rating values not reducing damage as intended, fixed certain bug holes including stalker nests that were unnecessarily hard to destroy, fixed anti-alias toggling not working on PlayStation 5, balanced lighting across all planets to solve cases where the game was too dark, improved flashlight efficacy, increased visibility during sand, rain, weather on Errata Prime, updated tutorial materials and lighting. Improved cases where some materials look blurry if a lighting graphic set was set to low, fixed timing issues that could occur in the Extract E710 primary objective, change button interaction behavior for buttons and bunker POIs. Helldivers will now let go of the button after holding it in for a few seconds, fix some cases of large assets floating if the ground beneath them was blown up. Helldivers standing next to ICBMs will get properly toasty with a chance of not so spontaneous combustions, fix unthrowable snowballs after ragdolling, fix being able to use grenades after drowning, camera no longer locked on player's own corpse and blocking spectator mode. Helldivers now take damage from fire, gas generated by other players, armor no longer stretches when dismembered. So those are all the updates and fixes that are being deployed with this patch. Then they do have a section for known issues which are still being worked on. These are issues that either were introduced by this patch and are being worked on, or are from a previous version that have not yet been fixed. Game may crash after dropping several high-power stratagems in succession. Haven't experienced that yet, but hopefully they do remedy that ASAP. Picking up items from caches may cause characters to freeze in place for an extended period of time. Picking up items from bunkers and caches in a quick succession may render one of the items unpickable. Players cannot unfriend other players befriended via friend code. Players may be unable to select a loadout to return to ship when joining a multiplayer game session via PS5 activity card. Mission objective HUD displays different numbers for clients and hosts during some missions. Default armor is always shown while viewing the war bond regardless of the armor the player has equipped. Text chat box displayed is obstructed by the cinematic letterboxing during extraction. Some text in the HUD and UI is missing or not displaying correctly. Players may experience issues when many players attempt to log in and or play at the same time. Login rate limiting. Players may become disconnected during play. Various UI issues may appear when the game interacts with servers. Some games may not be joinable by others for a short period of time. So all of that are issues that the team at Arrowhead are abundantly aware about and are currently working on, and hopefully should be resolved in the future in a future patch or just a stealth update. Sometimes they just drop stealth updates and that'll resolve the issue. Now, moving on from that, I do want to highlight one other note. There was somebody that tweeted out this should happen, but it would be stupid of them to announce this very soon after laying off 900 people recently, and that is PlayStation Studios and Arrowhead Game Studios. Welcome to the family. That little promotional image, I guess somebody made a fan-made version of it, and this is the very first I hear of this, and that's a good indication that it's fake. Also, very old logo. Now, at this point, Arrowhead being acquired by Sony obviously hasn't happened. Are Sony and Arrowhead in discussions? I would be surprised if they weren't, to be honest. I know that Sony just faced a lot of layoffs and whatnot, but it's a balancing act as far as where you spend your money, and Arrowhead Game Studios at this point has had a relationship with PlayStation. Remember that Helldivers 2 is a PlayStation published title. Now, from Arrowhead's standpoint, now that they see Helldivers 2 pop off and they have their resources attached to them, it's up to them to decide whether or not they want to stay independent. And for PlayStation Studios to acquire Arrowhead, obviously that price point has probably gone up quite a bit. I don't know the dialogue in terms of the contract as far as them already publishing Helldivers 2, if there were clauses in place, whatever the deal is. Remember that they can easily be a second-party publisher. If you don't know, Arrowhead was already kind of a second-party developer for Sony, given that Helldivers 1, developed by Arrowhead, published by Sony, and for a long time, Insomniac was like that as well, where Insomniac wasn't owned by Sony or PlayStation, but Sony and PlayStation would publish a lot of their games, like the Ratchet & Clank Future titles, like the Resistance games. Arrowhead can easily be like that as well. I'm sure that PlayStation Studios are changing their game plan as far as how they tackle live service games, because if you look at the layoffs, the majority of them are tied to studios, and the closure of studios are tied to these live service games. London Studios being shut down, and the layoffs that have been faced, a lot of them are tied to various live service projects, and I don't know if Sony's gonna be completely gung-ho about doing all of these live service games anymore. That seemed to have been more of a Jim Ryan forte, where Jim Ryan was really trying to go all in on that. I think live service games absolutely have a place in gaming, but you can't go a route where literally every game you're doing, or 90% of your development studios are like, make a live service game, make a live service game. I just don't think that's gonna work. Arrowhead, the thing about Arrowhead and Helldivers 2, the essence of Helldivers 2 was never changed. The essence of Arrowhead Game Studios as a studio was never changed, whereas I think with a lot of these other live service games, where these development studios are shoehorned into doing a live service game, suddenly the essence of these studios, what made these studios great in the first place, that is being altered entirely, and that's why I think you saw something like Last of Us Factions get canceled. We don't know how that game was turning out, but obviously live service is not something Naughty Dog is very familiar with. They've done multiplayer projects in the past. Multiplayer and a true live service game, two different ball games. Two different things you're working at as far as that's concerned. Arrowhead, I do think, would be an acquisition that I'm sure Sony is looking at, but whether they remain independent, whether they remain a second-party studio for Sony, that Sony just publishes their game, or whether they release their games on all platforms. The great thing is Helldivers 2 has become such a success where they really hold the cards to whatever they want to do, and at some point I would like to see Helldivers 2 get released on Xbox. I would like to see Helldivers 2 get released even on the next Nintendo Switch. That is if the next Switch can run it, but I would like to see as many people play the game as possible. But for now, if you're thinking it's going to happen in the immediate future, looking like that's not going to be the case. But that's going to do it for me. Again, Helldivers 2 gets what they're calling a minor patch. To me, when I look at that, pretty notable patch as far as all of the additions and changes with that. And as far as PlayStation acquiring Arrowhead, looks like that's not going to be happening in the very near future. That's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.